Good afternoon, honorable members.
Afternoon, Honorable Speaker.
Or you don't want you don't want to be
Afternoon, Speaker, afternoon.
I suspect people don't want to be part of this meeting right now. How are you? People have been working hard. Colleagues, good afternoon. This is the
afternoon, Speaker Mama.
Thank you.
No, Speaker, we want to be part of the meeting. We cannot drop the ball at the end. We can't.
Absolutely, but this is a meeting of the Joint Rules Committee. The last meeting, which was held of the Joint Rules Committee, chaired by the Speaker and the Chair of the NCOP, was the 9th of July, 2019. And another meeting was subsequently held in April this year, which was chaired by the Deputy
Recording
Speaker
in progress.
and the Deputy Chairperson of the NCOP. Colleagues, are there any apologies for today? Yes, Masibu?
We got a message, ma'am, that the chairperson of the NCOP is delayed. I think his flight was delayed. And I'm trying to locate Advocate Pindela to get an indication of whether there's someone who is acting, who can act in the place of the chairperson of the NCOP. I see Honorable Mwanya is here. Advocate Pindela can advise us to use on the platform.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kaso. Advocate Pindela, are you here? Okay. Anyway, we continue with our meeting, isn't it, colleagues? There should be other members of the NCOP who are on the platform. Am I correct?
Speaker, you are correct.
Yes, Speaker, we are here. We are here, Speaker.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Speaker.
Mangolana. Colleagues, I propose we proceed. We proceed particularly because of the urgency of the matters which we are dealing with, which are going to be presented here by the subcommittee. And these rules are rules which we want to adopt, which we will then take, we will then implement at the next year in 2024. So, colleagues, may someone adopt the agenda? We have an agenda before us. Anyone wants to move for the adoption? Honorable Gert.
I suggest, Speaker, that we adopt the agenda as is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Gert. Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I second the adoption of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Deputy Chief Whip. Colleagues, the agenda having been adopted, we then proceed to consider the draft minutes of the meeting, starting with the meeting of the 9th of July 2019. Okay, those are the minutes of the last meeting, colleagues.
Madam Speaker.
Those are the minutes, colleagues. I see there are several hands on the platform, and I'm assuming these minutes, as I'm looking at them, have not been signed, colleagues. And perhaps, sorry, this is a matter which the Deputy Speaker has referred to. So, shall we then look at the minutes and then we move for the adoption of the minutes? I recognize the Honorable Papo.
Speaker, I was just saying, I note that a number of these members who were in that meeting are not here. There are only a few who are here, and I would implore them to help us, because Member Janji, Takude, Bibi, those are the few who are here. The rest of us can't propose anything.
Okay. That helps me, Honorable Papo. Thank you very much. Honorable Takude, followed by Honorable Janji.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Indeed, we were part of the meeting, and the minutes are a true reflection of what was discussed in that Joint Rules Committee meeting. As for the signing, Honorable Speaker, I think those who were in the meeting, especially those who were presiding, were supposed to sign the minutes. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Madam Speaker, may
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Kaso, please allow me to recognize Honorable Janji first.
Thank you, Chair. I, having been present in that meeting 4 years ago, I still remember the issues we discussed, because it was more the process and setting up committees. When I reread the minutes, they are a true reflection of what took place in the meeting, and I therefore second Honorable Takude.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Janji. I see that I've received a message that Mr. Advocate Pindela has tendered an apology for this to this meeting. Okay, thank you. We then proceed, honorable members. The minutes have been adopted by Honorable Takude, and Honorable Janji has seconded the adoption of the minutes. So the minutes having been adopted, honorable members, we then proceed to deal with matters arising. And I will then invite Mr. Kaso.
I just want, with your permission, ma'am, I want to clarify that minutes are only signed once adopted, so they will now be signed, given that they have been adopted.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Kaso. Yes, please go through the matters arising.
I'll go through the matters arising, ma'am. And my colleagues are also going to be talking to Honorable Takude. We just want to finalize the issue of the quorum as well. I would like to start with the 19th of July, 2019. The issues there, ma'am, that were dealt with related to joint committees and the composition of joint committees, in particular the Joint Standing Committee on Defense and the Joint Standing Committee on Ethics and Members' Interests. I would like to indicate to this meeting that the composition of joint committees, the functioning of joint committees, those are part of the joint rules of review. So in the next chapters, which will be considered beginning of next year, the issue of joint committees and how they are constituted will be discussed and finalized by this committee. Thank you, ma'am. That is about the 9th of July, 2019.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kaso. I see no other hands, honorable members. I see no other hands. shall we then proceed to deal with, consider the report of the Joint Subcommittee on review of the joint rules? And at this point, then I invite the Honorable Dlakude.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity.
Speaker, just
I think, I'm sorry, I've made a mistake, Honorable Dlakude.
yes, other minutes.
We need to look at the minutes of the 25th of April, 2023. I'm sorry, Honorable Dlakude. Shall we then proceed to do that? You fly the minutes, please, on the screen. Thank you very much. Those are the minutes we consider, the minutes of the 25th of April, 20. Thank you, honorable members. Those colleagues, are we happy with the minutes? Those of you who were part of the meeting? Are they a true reflection of the discussions? Honorable Gert?
Speaker, I attended the meeting on the 25th of April this year, and I officially propose that we adopt these minutes as a true reflection of what was said in that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Korenwolf. Can somebody move for the support, Honorable Bartlett?
Yes, Chairperson, thank you very much. I move for the adoption. I second for the adoption of this report. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Bartlett. Honorable members, the minutes of the 25th of April have been adopted, and there has been a seconder. Having done that, we then proceed, honorable members, to look at whether there are matters arising out of those minutes. Mr. Kaso, would you like to draw our attention to any matter which is there in the minutes of the 25th of April, which
Madam
requires
Speaker,
our, yes?
Yeah, two issues, ma'am. There was an issue about disrupting at joint sitting, the SONA sitting.
Okay.
That matter has since been dealt with by the Powers and Privileges Committee. The second item that was discussed was the referral of the review of the rules to this committee, and this is what we are dealing with today.
Thank you very much.
Madam Speaker, I would also just like to note that let's go ahead to discuss the rules. We are having quorum challenges on the side of the ANC, and we're trying to phone the honorable members who are not here, but we may proceed now.
Okay, honorable members, I suggest we proceed with the discussions, and then at the end, we will have to find them, because we then have to adopt these minutes. Honorable members, we proceed. Shall we then consider the report of the Joint Subcommittee on review of the joint rules on draft chapter 1 and 2? Honorable Dlakude.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity as a subcommittee to present to this Joint Rules Committee. Indeed, we did meet as the Joint Subcommittee for the past 2 weeks to process the 2 chapters, chapter 1 and 2 of the Joint Rules. We are happy with the proposed amendments, and I want to indicate that in our discussions, Honorable Speaker, we did also allow an opportunity for parties to consult their for members to consult their political parties, of which they did, and also to indicate that in our discussions in the subcommittee on the joint rules, there were no objections to the proposed amendments. I will therefore, with your permission, Honorable Speaker, to ask Mr. Tasso and his colleagues from the other house to present the proposed amendments as discussed in the subcommittee, in the joint subcommittee. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Chief Whip of the Majority Party. I now invite Mr. Kaso to take us through the rules which are proposed, the amendments.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will request my colleagues to place the document on the screen. The one titled Proposed Amendments to Chapters 1 to 2A. We will go to Rule 1A. As we get there, Madam Speaker and honorable members, we would like to indicate that we are not presenting the definitions at this point because we will await the whole process of the review before we can finalize the definitions to these rules. So in Rule 1A, here we are clarifying the sources of authority of the joint business of the houses. These are rules that honorable members are probably familiar with. What we have done in some respects is to borrow from the NA, and in other respects is to borrow from the NCOP. So these rules on 1A basically deal with the sources of procedure. I might just summarize them. The Constitution, where it says the Act, it's referring to the Powers and Privileges Act, and any other applicable act, the joint rules, any rules, NCOP rules, directives of the joint rules, and ruling by presiding officers. We may now go to Rule 1B. Here we are dealing with the authority of the joint rules to produce rules. That is in terms of Section 45, that says Parliament must establish a joint rules committee which must consider joint rules for the two houses. And sub 3 there is important, and sub 2 in fact, that these joint rules remain in force until amended or repealed by the houses. And members must strictly adhere to the joint rules. Then on Rule 2, here we deal with unforeseen. It used to be matters, it's now eventuality. So where we have underlined, it indicates new sessions, eventualities, where the speaker or the chair or the speaker and the chair may formulate a rule or give a ruling to deal with an unforeseen circumstance. And a rule that has been formulated by the speaker and the chair remains in force until this committee has made a recommendation to the House or to the houses. Then 2A, it's a new development, directives and guidelines of the Joint Rules Committee, that members must comply with directives and guidelines of this committee, because not everything will be contained in the rules. It's easier to amend or vary guidelines and directives than to amend the rules. So we'll develop guidelines and directives in some respects. Then we come to rulings of the presiding officers. They are empowered to make rulings, presiding officers. Sub 3 is important. Sub 2 and 3 are important. That members must comply with rulings made by presiding officers. A ruling by a presiding officer is final. Later on, we'll deal with what a member could do, an aggrieved member could do with the ruling by a presiding officer. Let's proceed. You'll see. Here we deal with conventions and practices. And the emphasis there is that presiding officers may direct members to comply with established conventions and practices. These would be conventions that is not necessarily contained in guidelines, but as a parliament, we have long established practices and long established conventions. Some of them we've codified, we've since codified things like bowing to the chair, not to cross the line between the speaker and the person speaking, or the chair and the person speaking. So those have been codified. 2D is important. It says that a member willfully fails or refuses to obey any joint rules or order or resolution may be found guilty of contempt of parliament. How do you deal with this? The matter would obviously have to be referred to the Powers and Privileges Committee, either a joint one or a Powers and Privileges Committee of the respective house, of a specific house, so that it can interrogate issues of contempt. These rules may be suspended for whatever purpose, and the suspension is limited to that particular purpose. It can be extended to other issues. And no convention or rule of practice limits or inhibits any provision of the rules. In other words, these rules supersede your conventions or practices. Application Rule 5. Rule 5. They are applicable to members of the House, members of Cabinet who are not necessarily members of the House, unless very inappropriate, like voting, for instance. If we had to vote in a joint session, those will not be applicable. And then public participation. Here we clarify issues of public participation. Sub-Rule 3. There, if you could go to Sub-Rule 3, it emphasizes that joint sittings are open to the public, and reasonable measures may be put in place, and that the chair and the speaker are responsible to regulate access of the public. I want us to rule, with your permission, to go to Sub-Rule 7. Sub-Rule 7 is important. The speaker and chair may give a non-member access to the floor of the chamber during a joint sitting, circumstances. For instance, you could have a sign language interpreter who needs to be on the floor. You could have a medical practitioner who needs to be on the floor of the House. You could have an ICT person to help during a sitting. So the speaker or the chair may give permission for that person to be on the floor of the House. May we proceed to Sub-Rule 12? Here the House may, by resolution in each house, invite any person to address the joint sitting. So it's a privilege which is now being extended beyond your head of state or head of government, or visiting foreign dignitary. Or while it could be a visiting foreign dignitary who is not a head of government or a head of state, who could be given an opportunity to address the House. I think former SG of the United Nations. Chapter 2. Yes. 7 is something we're familiar with. No other business may be considered during a joint sitting other than a specified business for which that joint sitting is called. Then 7A is a new development. Here we are the rules are creating a distinction between opening of the parliament and the president's State of the Nation address. So,
Speaker, I have my hand up. There's a problem with the audio of the secretary to the NA. I don't know, maybe it's me. The rest of the committee may be hearing. It's like a bit faint. Maybe if it's me, it's okay. The meeting that can continue.
No. Okay. It keeps on breaking a bit, but it's audible nonetheless.
No, I'm saying Mr. Trazo is always very clear, but today it's a bit sort of, it's like he's far when he speaks.
How does it sound now?
I don't know whether it's because
Okay.
the camera is on or something, but I'm just saying, I can hear him, but it sounds very far.
I'm putting the.
Okay, thank you very much.
How does it sound, ma'am?
Hello, Mr.
How does it
Pastor.
sound, Madam Speaker?
Yes, it's still the same because he's correct to say that you sound as though you are rather far, but actually we can hear what you're saying. It's a bit strenuous. But maybe you should switch off your video.
Off.
Let's see. Continue.
Right. 7A.
Yes.
Deals with the opening of a parliament. Better now, ma'am. May I proceed?
Yes, you can
Yes.
hear.
All right.
Proceed.
Deals with the opening of a parliament, which says that at the commencement of the first session of a parliament, after its elections, the president may deliver an opening address. So I was explaining that here we are creating a distinction between the State of the Nation address, which is on an annual basis, and the first sitting at the start of a new parliament. We think that it is appropriate to create that distinction. Hence, here we are talking about the opening of a parliament. And then we'll have, okay, then sub 3 is important. No member may interrupt the president while delivering the opening of parliament address. We have a similar rule under 7B, which says that no member may interrupt the president while delivering the State of the Nation address. We may discuss that later on. But in my view, spurious points of order, for instance, would be that interruption, among other things. Let's go to Rule 8. Joint sittings are held at the precincts of Parliament as provided in section 42(6). That needs no further explanation. Date and time, we may proceed. Let's proceed. Then the powers, the authority of the presiding officers. Okay? Assist me, controllers. Yes. Here we are trying to just clarify the issue of the authority and responsibility of presiding officers to preserve the order, the proper decorum in a joint sitting, and uphold the dignity of Parliament to ensure the strict observance of these rules and apply these rules fairly and impartially. Discipline. Go to discipline, please. This point, honorable members, is important that in the event of a member who needs to undergo a disciplinary process, the rules of the respective houses will be applicable. And that matter will be referred to that particular house to deal with the matter. If we may proceed. Go to chapter 2A. Chapter 2A won't spend much time because this is about the hybrid arrangements, virtual or hybrid arrangements. It's been applied since COVID, and these rules have been in place all this time. We are just integrating them here. I would like us to go to 14G of the rules, with your permission, honorable members. This one deals with the muting of microphones. That when a member is acting in a disorderly manner, the presiding officer may mute, direct that microphone be muted or switched off, and you give the member notice before you do that. But 14I is a new development. 14I is trying to create consistency between the physical platform and the virtual platform. Here, where a member is being disruptive on the virtual platform, currently, there's no rule that says the member must be ordered to leave. So these rules are creating that regime, that a member will be ordered to leave. If the member refuses, the member is then removed by the chair. And of course, in extreme circumstances, which are very much unlikely, in 14J2, where sessions could be suspended because a member must be removed. Other members on the platform must remain on the platform, as it is the case in the House. So we are creating consistency. We may now proceed to Chapter 2B, the new Chapter 2B. This one deals with freedom of speech in joint sittings. That members have freedom of speech in a joint sitting. And what the Constitution says, anything they are not liable to any civil or criminal proceedings, arrest, imprisonment, or damages for anything they have said, produced before or submitted to a joint sitting or any committee, or anything revealed as a result of anything said, produced before or submitted in a joint sitting. Then, honorable members, in 15B, it deals with the conduct of members generally. Members at all times accord presiding officers due respect, conduct themselves with dignity, be seated when the bells stop ringing. So these are some of the conventions I said have since been codified in terms of the rules. If we go to G, G is important, sub G. Not bring weapons or any kind, not dangerous, threatening articles, objects, not replicas, and G2 placards into the chamber. Placards into the chamber may not be brought. So this is a new development in the joint rules. We didn't have it before. Then if we may proceed to 15D. We have not provided, honorable members, I think it's important that I state, we have not provided for cultural objects. Members will advise us if that should be included, but that is not been provided for. Then 15D basically deals with member may not be interrupted. And 15E is important, always been there, but I think it's always important to emphasize it. Whenever the presiding officer addresses members during a joint sitting, any member then speaking or seeking to speak must resume his or her seat, and the presiding officer must be heard without interruption. We have removed debate, could be because it's not always the case that there's a debate in the joint sitting. It could be someone addressing the joint sitting. So we are referring to the joint sitting. We think it's all encompassing. Presiding officer must be heard without interruption. So it is out of order for a member to speak while the presiding officer is addressing the House under any circumstance. We thought that point should be raised, should be made. Then 15FA deals with grossly disorderly conduct, and it states instances that constitute grossly disorderly conduct. Deliberately creating serious disorder, physically intervening in the removal of members, repeatedly undermining the authority of presiding officers, or refusing to obey rulings. I think C is important. Refusing to obey rulings of the presiding officers, or repeatedly disrespecting and interrupting the presiding officer while the latter is addressing the House, consistent with the rule that I just mentioned shortly. 15G, grave disorder. 15HA deals with the removal of members. If you can go to 15HA, please. Here we are just stating the current practice already, because already in the rules. Where a member refuses to obey the chair, the first port of call would be the presiding officer instructing the sergeant at arms or the usher. If the member still refuses, call upon the protection services to remove. In the event of violence or prospect of violence or serious disruption, can suspend proceedings, call in the security services, and no member may intervene whatsoever when that is happening. What is the difference with these rules? In these rules, we are not creating a subcommittee. to deal with the physical removal of members. The reason is that for House processes, that process can run efficiently, but for joint processes, it could be cumbersome. It does become a struggle to pull a joint session together, and therefore to contribute towards efficiency when something like this has arisen in a joint sitting, the speaker or the chair will refer members to the relevant committee of that house. It could be the Powers and Privileges Committee of that house to deal with a disruption. So we thought it would make that point, clarify that point, honorable members. 15I, I, referral of members' conduct. If it is a house chairperson or deputy speaker who is presiding and there's a serious situation in the house, that member may be referred to the speaker or the chairperson. A member may express regret for their conduct to the speaker or the chairperson, and the speaker or chairperson must inform the sitting accordingly. 15K is significant, honorable members, that in a joint sitting, reflections may not be made with regard to holders of public office, but the issue has always been, how then do you deal with this? Now, the rules provide that in the event that that happens, and the member concerned will be referred to the relevant house, or to say that you must do a substantive motion in the relevant house. Because members have said, but this is a joint sitting, we can't do a motion in a joint sitting. So are you then interfering with our right to speak? But the procedure is that the substantive motion must be done in the relevant house. 15L, also important. Sub A, member may not disrupt another member speaking, except to raise a point of order or a question of privilege. These are two different processes. Point of order is a breach of the rules or conventions or practices. A question of privilege is really has to do with what will be contained in the Powers and Privileges Act. For instance, the disturbance of this, or interfering with the business of the house, preventing a member from speaking, or attempting to bribe another member, or to say that if you don't do this or that, this is what you're going to get. So those are instances that would constitute a breach of privilege, a question of privilege. I remember saying, I've been prevented from getting into this debate by whatever, and therefore I'm rising on a question of privilege. My right as a member has been violated. Then control of microphones in the chamber, we've spoken to that. And FP, unparliamentary or unacceptable language or gestures by members, reflections upon members, that should be dealt with also. It was not there in the joint rules before. It is now provided for in the joint rules. Honorable members, we then get 2 points of order. We will correct the numbering and the cross-reference, like you see it's sub 1. Which refers to Rule 66. That will be corrected. But the point I wanted to make here, apart from what honorable members are already familiar with, is the sub-rule which speaks about a ruling of the presiding officer being final. Colleague may assist me there. Yes, sub-rule 11. The presiding officer's ruling on a point of order is final and binding and may not be challenged or questioned in the house. I think that point is significant. May not be challenged or questioned in the house. So a member will say, then if I'm aggrieved, what should I do? Sub-rule 12A, a member who is aggrieved on a point of order by presiding officer's ruling on a point of order may subsequently, in writing to the speaker or the chair, request the principle or subject matter of the ruling be referred to the joint rules. And it is the principle. It is not a review of the ruling, but the principle underlying that ruling that will be discussed by the Joint Rules Committee, so that members have a sense of recourse when a ruling has been given in the House. And also questions of privilege they are different. There are those that may have direct bearing on that particular sitting, but there are those that could be dealt with later on, which do not need the joint sitting to be paused to deal with that matter. I always give the example of the alleged signal jamming, that sitting could not proceed because members said, look, this is interfering with our right, and not just our right, but also the right of the public or the media to record proceedings of the House. So it's interfering with the constitutional principle of transparency. And therefore that sitting could not continue until the matter was resolved. And then the acting of absent member, that another member may act on behalf of another member. Those are the rules, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members, that we are presenting today for consideration by this committee. Thank you, Madam Speaker. We are available, myself and Advocate Nonyane from the NCOP will be able to clarify issues of clarity of that need to be clarified in the absence of Advocate Pidela from the NCOP. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kaso, for your presentation to us. Honorable members, those were the proposed amendments to the current rules of our sittings. Are there any questions? Questions of clarity? I see no hands, honorable members. Please draw my attention if I don't recognize you, but on my system, I see no hands. Honorable members, there are no issues. Does this mean that we are now approving these amendments? Thank you. There are two hands. Honorable Kyanki, followed by Honorable Jakude.
No, thank you, Chair, and thank you to both tables for the presentation of the work. Being a member of the subcommittee, myself, Chair, under the leadership of Honorable Lagude and Honorable Lucas, I just want to firstly confirm that as part of the discussions we had, what has been presented does reflect our own proposals from the subcommittee to this joint committee. I just wanted perhaps just a bit of emphasis for Mr. Kaso to assist on. There are new nuances and emphasis here that are aimed at strengthening and enhancing the authority of the presiding officers, especially in the joint sittings. The rulings deal with two important sections where a member is said he must comply with the orders, and that a ruling of the presiding officer is final. I think Mr. Kaso then drew us to the points of orders. And so the two must be attended together, that we're still going to allow this point of orders. But the new thing now is that those rulings where members must comply, where the ruling of the presiding officer is final, is assisting us so that we don't have an unending kind of a process. So I just want to emphasize that that's a new emphasis that we're putting in addition, Chair, in addition, and I'm hoping that this is something that if we have problems in future can be used. These unforeseen eventualities. We have not exercised that, where if there are issues that are not addressed by the rules, we give presiding officers the powers to determine anything that is not in the rules. In other words, you have an opportunity to determine. You can take 5 minutes or so and come back and say, this is what the speaker and the national chairperson of the NCOP have agreed. Those seem to be very important to strengthen what we have and the kind of loopholes that we had before. I will not go to the other details, but I regard those as very important for the decorum of the House. Thank you, Chair. You are muted, Chair. You are muted, Speaker. You are muted.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Honorable Kubutile Kyangi. And my next speaker on my list is Honorable Tlhakude. I recognize you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Janji have emphasized the points I wanted to touch on, that maintaining the decorum of the House is very important as honorable members of Parliament. So these rules, I want to plead with all of us that we adopt these rules so that they can be implemented in all the joint sittings. And also to indicate that the other chapters, Honorable Speaker, we will deal with them next year, because both tables were still cleaning them up. So we'll attend to those next year. But now we are adopting the joint rules. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Chief Whip of the Majority Party. Honorable Member Muhai.
Thank you very much, Speaker. I want to join hands with my colleagues that we really adopt the rules that are presented here, but also it's not just, it's a culmination of a process where subcommittee we have looked into these matters, and that truly Parliament becomes the tribunal of our people, that what we do, what happens in Parliament surely should reflect the seriousness within which we deal with matters of national importance. So these rules help us to regulate, I think, based on an experience. It's unfortunate that this comes out of an experience, at times delay in terms of attending to matters that millions of our people are expecting that they should be dealt with. So I also support that we approve these rules. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chief Whip of the NCOP, Muhai. Honorable members, more hands, Honorable Papo.
Ultimately, Speaker, the quorum of any legislative assembly depends on members of that assembly. We have rules to deal with queries in the rules. It's how do you query, procedures. But an environment which then created, which undermines the quorum, undermines presiding officers, as if we are in a kindergarten or a primary school, cannot be allowed. Because South Africans are saying, and have been saying even to yourself, that what are you guys doing there in Parliament? What kind of a Parliament are you running there? Where people are not safe, you can be hit by an object, anything can happen there. And family members then get so I'm just saying this is to ensure that the debate is protected, but members, all of us, don't go beyond what is the constitution allows, and the rules which the constitution allows the sector to give happens. Because some people think that freedom of speech has no boundaries. You can just say anything, do anything at any time without any regulation. There's no institution in society which runs that way. And Parliament must be an example that you can have debate, differ, but in an orderly environment. Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable Papo. there is another hand, Honorable Gert. Then I will invite Honorable Klassen.
If I understand correctly, Speaker, you received a proposal for the, and it was seconded, that we formally adopt and approve the proposed amendments to Chapter 1 and 2 of the Joint Rules. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Gert. You are correct. However, I was waiting for a report to hear whether eventually we do have a quorum at this meeting. Do we have a quorum, Honorable Klassen, so that we can adopt?
Madam Speaker, I wish to bring to the attention of the meeting that in the NA, we only have ANC members in this meeting. So we don't have a multi-party attendance. And of course, we need 11 members from the NA side. And that 11 members would include the DA and would include the EFF and I think the IFP as well. Now, we do have more than 11 members, but those 11 members, or more than 11 members, are only ANC members. I would therefore advise that it may be advisable to have a special meeting where we'll adopt these rules so that the legitimacy of the rules is not questioned. Maybe Tuesday morning, or because we are still sitting on Wednesday. That is my advice.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Klassen. Honorable Janki, let me start with Honorable Lisumane, and then I'll hear Honorable Janki.
No, good afternoon, Honorable Speaker and colleagues on the platform. Thank you very much. Just on the point that Honorable Mr. Klassen have raised, my understanding, the Committee of Parliament, when they are constituted, they become Committee of Parliament, not necessarily a political party. Notwithstanding that, I do get the point and the rationale that it probably because we are dealing with the rules, it will be appropriate that one or two of other political parties are in attendance. I guess when we all started the meeting, there were apologies. Secondly, my question then, Chair, is that if then on Tuesday, which I don't have a problem with that, they don't pitch up what is the recourse in terms of us proceeding with the rules, because we do have a quorum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Lisuma. Honorable Suma, you are followed by Honorable Janki.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I hear Mr. Klassen. I embrace that concern, but I just want to indicate that we can't change rules. Rules of quorum are not party-based. Rules of quorum about numbers. We're not going to change that now. And that's how we've been operating. In other words, you would be saying in a portfolio committee where parties would just not come, or if they don't like a particular issue, because the 11 is a complete composition of the committee, of course, except Section 194. That's how we've done it. And so we've done it in that way so that any 6 that is present, and it's never said a 6 of the ANC, any 6 members that are present, we're able to take a decision. And in fact, there's also a quorum to start a meeting. Out of that 11, when I have 4 members as a chair of the committee, regardless of which parties they are, even if it's 4 from the ANC, I'm able to start that meeting. So I'm cautioning that we must not begin to change rules because of that concern that we have. If there is a need for an opportunity for other members to comment on the decision of the committee of today, there must be round robin and given that, but it can never stop from us proceeding on the basis that, yes, we do have a quorum, but it's only one color, because we've never introduced that. as part of the rules. It will be a new rule, and I would not support that new rule. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Janki. Who's after you, Honorable Gert?
Thank you, Speaker. I think the rules of meeting should apply. So, and the quorum is determined by the rules of the meeting. There's no remarks column in rules. So if members are absent or have apologized, that's a completely separate matter from forming a quorum. So we don't discuss why members do not attend, whether they don't like it or they're not available. What I think we must focus on is the rules of meetings. And the rules of the Joint Rules Committee simply states, if I remember correctly, you need to have a quorum to adopt a report. And you've just received now a report, this meeting do curate, so it's in a full justified by this meeting to adopt or to reject. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Gert, Honorable Papo, and followed by, is it a legacy hand, Honorable Lesuma, or do you want to speak again?
It's a second party to permit, Honorable Speaker.
Okay. All right, thank you.
We must not accept any round robin. We must not accept the notion of a party-based quorums. We can have people who boycott meetings thinking that there won't be a quorum. A quorum is a majority of members. No round robin. Decision is taken. Once the decision is taken, it's taken. Then other procedures follow. We can set a very wrong precedent. Committees being collapsed by people who don't. For example, we didn't receive any apology from the other members. Now, are we going to find them to come? We cannot do that. We have a quorum, a big quorum for that matter, from both houses, and the decision has to be taken by members who are relevant. I don't think, Speaker, we should accept that advice. It can set a very wrong precedent. There is no legal precedent court which can say a majority cannot decide. Even in the House, if a decision requires a particular majority, there's no party there. It's a majority of that House, even in the committee, because committees are a delegated structure of the National Assembly and the NCOP. So I wouldn't accept that advice because it can set a very wrong precedent.
Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Papo. Hi. Yes.
Ma'am, I agree with the sentiment, but I just want to also provide what we will do, because some of the members who constitute that quorum are not members of this committee. So what we will do, this is my advice, that those members who are not members of the Rules Committee will be co-opted in terms of Joint Rule 28. And in that manner, we will then be able to do what the honorable members are saying. But I wanted to make the point that some of those members are actually not members of this committee. Yes.
Oh, okay. Are you saying some of the members who are here this afternoon, who have assisted us to get these numbers, in other words, a quorum, are not necessarily members of the Joint Rules Committee? They are just observers.
That's right. They are members of Parliament who are allowed to participate, but they may not vote. But to enable them to vote, they must be co-opted in terms of Joint 28. So we'll do that. We'll indicate that in the minutes. So we may proceed with this. I see Honorable Singh is now here as well, which comes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Honorable Singh is here. You know
And
what? Right
Honorable,
at the beginning,
and Honorable
made
Madam Speaker, and Honorable Sheikh Imam is in the meeting.
Okay, all right, honorable members. I was saying, right at the beginning, somebody made a point that the members, not all members are here, and that we needed a quorum. And I know that people have been called and messages have been sent. And we did not hear anyone apologizing for their absence to this meeting. We now have Honorable Singh. We now have Honorable Sheikh Imam, honorable members. So those who are going to speak, I want you to take that into consideration. Thank you very much, Honorable Lisuma.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I think probably my contribution, I was a little bit diplomatic. I pose it as a question. Since I've been the chair, we have been advised according to the rules of the constitution or composition of the committee that if you don't have a quorum, then you can co-opt members. But if then they are there in terms of their attendance having been requested to attend, they constitute the quorum. You don't then start segmenting them, whether they are not members or not. That's one. And in transport committee, we have dealt with that. Even when we're dealing with the bill, it was like that. Secondly, I 120% agree with Honorable Janji to say that the composition of the committee after it has been constituted, then it becomes the committee, doesn't become a multi-party representative committee, as it were. And I think I put it as a question because I couldn't understand the rationale, what informs their advice. Nevertheless, I think I'm happy with what Mr. Klaso have said now. And I would like to say probably our Deputy Chief Whip of the majority party will do that, but we have, as the ANC, we have co-opted those members. They are fully fledged members representing both houses in their attendance, not necessarily that administrative is going to be done that. So I'm presenting that, Chair, so that we are complete in terms of us co-reading and also as a committee, as the rules of establishment or constituting the committees, we are in line with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Lisuma. Honorable, who was after you? I'm sorry. Some I identified some. Honorable, no, thank you.
It was Mohai.
It was Honorable Mohai. I'm confused because he's removed his hand from the system. Honorable
Yes,
Mohai.
Speaker, my hand was up, but once the matter is resolved that we either have a quorum or not, and then we proceed in that we have a quorum, I'm satisfied. Thanks.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Honorable members, we do have a quorum. So we will proceed as such. Honorable Singh.
Honorable Speaker.
Yes.
Honorable, sorry, my hand is up. Just for the record, I did apologize. Yes, I did apologize and requested Honorable Machozi to join because I'm at a funeral, but it seems she's having connectivity, so I've walked out of a funeral to join the meeting. So I hope it's not going to be too long. Thank you.
Okay, Honorable Janji, you're the last one now on the matter. Eh?
Covered, Chair. I'm covered, Chair.
You covered. Honorable members, we do have a quorum. And the rules, the amendments have been presented to us. And what it means is that we should start by now adopting the proposed amendments to both, for the joint rules, to both Chapter 1 and 2B. Honorable members, Honorable Tlhakudi.
Honorable Speaker, I move that the proposed amendments of the Joint Rules, Chapter 1 and 2, be adopted by the Joint Rules Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Tlhakudi. Honorable members, there's an adoption of the rules being proposed. In fact, it's an adoption. Any seconder, Honorable Ngwenya?
Thanks very much, Speaker. I would like to second the rules. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Speaker.
Honorable Bartlett?
Sorry, Speaker. No, I wanted 2 seconds. Yes, I'm fine.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, we have now adopted, I think we've worked very well this afternoon. We have adopted the amendments to the rules as proposed by the review subcommittee on rules. We have considered the issues. We have not only considered the issues, we have discussed, and we have since adopted the rules. These amendments now form part of our rules of a joint sitting. Agreed, honorable members? Having agreed, having agreed.
Agreed, Speaker.
Chairperson, sorry.
Yes,
Honorable Speaker.
Yes,
Are these rules not supposed to be adopted in both houses before they can be standing rules? Because as the committee can adopt, but then it must be referred to the House.
Honorable Becky, the rules as of now here in this meeting, as presented by the team, have been adopted by the committee, which is what your first step is, your second step, because your first step is your discussion in the review subcommittee. Then those discussions are brought here to the rules committee. And now I will request Honorable Kaso to give us the final step. But as far as we have now adopted these rules, and guide us now, Honorable Kaso. Mr. Kaso.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The National Assembly will consider the rules on Wednesday. Advocate Nonyane will advise when the NCOP will consider them, but the intention is to finalize these rules before we adjourn. I also just want to indicate, ma'am, I think we omitted to indicate earlier on, the DA members had apologized, so I just for the record. Advocate Nonyane may indicate when these rules will be dealt with by the NCOP.
Afternoon, Madam Speaker and honorable members. In the platform, we do have the Chief Whip who coordinates the whippery for the scheduling of items for the House for consideration. I would request that maybe the Chief Whip assist the meeting in terms of when they could be scheduled for consideration. Thanks, Madam Speaker.
We can table, my apologies, Speaker, if you allow.
Yes.
Wednesday, we have got the sitting on Wednesday to consider NHI. So we can deal with that matter on that day, Nanyani, and we can start with the forum earlier. So we can table as well on Wednesday. Thanks. On the 6th.
Thank you very much. Thank you. On the 6th. What? Sorry, what time, honorable members? Because we have a sitting of the National Assembly, as has been reported as well. So can we now make sure that we synchronize our sittings? I know there's an NHI issue, but this is a very quick issue to adopt these rules.
Agreed.
So members of the NCOP will agree to find space, or even later on another day, because the NCOP, I think, will continue, am I correct, beyond the 6th to do its work.
Until the 8th, our last day is the 8th.
Yes, precisely. So, honorable members, in the case of the National Assembly, these rules will be adopted on the 6th, which is on Wednesday next week, on the day Parliament rises. And in the case of the NCOP, Honorable so I hear him say, they will create an opportunity before Parliament, the NCOP rises on the 6th for an adoption of these rules. Is that agreed, colleagues?
Yes, Speaker, I will report the
Madam
6th, Speaker. We are sitting.
Agreed.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Colleagues, thank you very much. I must say that this has been a very productive meeting. It really has been a very, very productive meeting. I think we've done a lot of good work. Thank you very much to you all. Meeting of the Joint Rules Committee for 2023 is adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mama.
Thank you.
Officials of the
Speaker, long live the honorable speaker.
Recording stopped.
With the stylish hair.
You're asking the colleagues to remain behind, please. Safe to continue, colleagues. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you, Secretary.
All right. No, thank you so much, colleagues, for the hard work. It has worked. Glad that